Hello and welcome to Dreadlocks question and answers part 8. So this is the 8th answer video in the series where I've been answering questions that have been left to me in the comment section of other videos in this series. So the next question that I have is from kolffkeevin. My question is, on some of my locks half is smooth and the ends are natty. Do I just let them do their own thing, or is there something to heal out? Okay, in your question you didn't specify how old the dreadlocks are, but quite a common question to be asked. My dreadlocks are knotting here but not here, or they're knotting here and they're not here. But I'll say that dreadlocks don't knot up evenly. They don't go from normal hair to suddenly they're all dreadlocked. This bit might dread faster than this bit, and this bit might dread faster than this bit. It tends to be that the middle section will often go first, and you'll have some loose tips that will stay loose from washing, and then some loose roots, and then you have to wait for everything to sort of catch up and even out. So my recommendation for you would be to wait it out, and as the months go by you'll find the loose bits start to fill in and everything sort of knot up and even out. Next question. Fatima Chavz. Question. I have thin dreads, but I would like them to be a little more thicker. Is there something I can do? I heard that time make them thicker, but I don't know if it's true. When your dreads are really young, over time they can get thicker or thinner. It really depends on how they were started. So some people will find their dreads will thicken up over time, and that tends to happen if you start with long hair and you twist and rip, and you can find that they can sort of shrivel up and shrink up, and they'll fatten out. But other people who have really heavily backcombed their hair so they come out really puffy will find that they actually get thinner when they tighten up. So it's hard to definitively say whether your dreads will get thicker or thinner. It depends on how thick your hair is and how big the sectioning is on your hair. But I'd say once your dreadlocks get to about a year old, that's pretty much about as thick or as thin as they're going to get. And if that's too thin for you, then you will have to start congoing some dreads together. Chances are by the time they get to the time that they've matured, once the dreads are about a year old, you'll have probably forgotten all about whether you want them thicker or thinner, and you'll just sort of like them for how they are. When dreads are young, it's normal to be looking at them every day and thinking, oh, I like this bit, but I don't like that bit. And then by the time they've matured and you've had them for many, many months, you kind of are more accepting of them. But if they are getting older and you really want some thicker ones, then as I said, you can Congo them, and I have a video on Congoing that I will put down in the box here that you can click. But it's basically letting multiple dreadlocks grow together, so you can take two dreadlocks and then let them grow together, and then they will double up and form a thicker dreadlock. I'm not sure whether I have a particularly good example to show. See this one, I let this dread thicken up, so it used to be these two thin dreads here, and now it's growing into this one thicker dread. So it's an example of Congoing. So it's a really slow process, but if you really want some dreads to be thicker, that might be the way to go. Next question. Martim Tavares. Question. I started my dreads 3 months and a couple of weeks ago, and they are not joining in the roots, so I don't have to rip them apart. I haven't sectioned my dreads, so is this a sign that they are not dreading? The fact that the dreads aren't sticking together, I wouldn't take that as a sign that they're not dreading. I'd take that as a sign that you're lucky. Lots of people hate having to split the dreads. You said that you didn't section the dreads, so you're kind of expecting them to be more messy and wanting to join in random places, but maybe you just got lucky and the hairs are going where they want to go already without needing to separate them. Just from the fact that they're not joining together, I can't really tell, from that whether they're dreading or not. I would imagine that as long as you're leaving them alone and just letting the dreads grow and not, that they are dreading. And I wouldn't take, the fact that they're not locking to each other, I wouldn't treat that as a sign that they're not dreading. But yeah, I need a little bit more information to sort of help out any more than that, I'm afraid. Bobby Obot1. This is a question that he has posed a number of times, and it's not that I've been ignoring his question, it's just that it's kind of in the list. I've had a lot of questions for this, so it's taken me a while to work through them. But Bobby Obot1 asks if you have any photos of your dreads when you first got them. could you show them in the next Q&A video? I have many pictures of my dreads throughout their process, and that is in the video which is called 0 to 67 months of dreads. 0 to 67 months of dreadlocks. I don't have the pictures that are in that video to hand, so I can't just drop them into this video as easily as I would like to do. But I have compiled that slideshow, and it's like 2 minutes long, and it shows pictures of my hair through the first 5 years of me having dreads, so you can see how my hair was before I started and how it looked when the dreads were new, and then how they grew and developed. I really don't have that many pictures of myself with young dreadlocks because that was before I really knew anything about what I was doing. I did all my dreadlock experimenting when I was a kid without sort of the helpful advice of something like lazy dreads. This is mainly why I do what I do, because I made lots of mistakes and trusted a lot of information that wasn't necessarily all that beneficial, you know, for my dreadlocks. So now I'm trying to help people avoid such problems. So I didn't really take a lot of pictures of my dreads when they were young because I was kind of not doing it very well, and it wasn't sort of something I'd want photographing. But the pictures that I do have are in that video, and if you're on a computer, I will annotate here, put a box that you can click, you can push this button here and it will take you to the video. And if you're on a phone, there won't be a box there, but I will put a link for it down here so you can find it later if you so wish to look at my dreadlocks through the years. And I have another question from Fatima Chavz. Question: my dreads are only 2 months old and they are fine, but my tips always undread when I wash my hair. What can I do? You need to wait more than 2 months. It's normal for dreads to be loose at the tip, wispy ends, and it's far more normal to have wispy ends, I find, than the blunted rounded tips. For most people, blunted tips take a really long time. I know that it's different for each person, and if you have naturally curly hair, you can find that the tips will blunt faster than other people's tips. When I was just letting my dreads grow and grow and grow, it took quite a few years before they started to get blunted at the tip. Since then, I've been trimming my dreads, and I tend to trim them about once a year, and in that year, they don't get blunted at the tip. So that's a whole year of them still not blunting at the tip, so it's a little bit longer than your 2 months. So if you really want blunted tips, it's going to take a really long time. So my dreads, they look kind of neat-ish at the end, but if you look, they are loose at the tips. See this one? It's loose like a fair bit. They're not super long and wispy and loose because I've trimmed them. When I trim the dreads, I just cut it across and it gets a little bit loose right on the tip. So I would recommend waiting. There are things you can do. You can crochet the tips, but if your dreads are only 2 months old, then that might not be the best move because they might be really long and wispy, and if you wait some time, they might, you know, dread up a bit more, and then you wouldn't have to crochet as much. I really don't recommend people crocheting their dreadlocks until the dreads are at least a year old. Once the dreadlocks have matured, you can make your own decisions on whether you want to crochet the dreads or not. But the problem is, if you crochet dreadlocks when they're less than a year old, you can find that you're kind of making the problem worse. Because crocheting is fine for just pulling in a few hairs here and there, but when your dreads are young, they are going to be really loose and messy, so you can find that you really very quickly can go overboard with the crocheting and various negative side effects that come along with that. And I also wouldn't sort of shun and be like, oh, I don't want wispy tips, because I personally think there are lots of upsides to loose wispy tips. I know it can kind of look messy and not particularly attractive when the dreads are really young, but I prefer my dreads tips to be loose because the dreads are easier to wash and dry. When the tips are blunted, I found that things would more easily get stuck there, so I'd have to really try to make sure that nothing got built up like residue from soap in the tip. But when they're wispy, you find that the water runs out much more easily. It's faster and easier to rinse. That's in my experience anyway. I've kind of gone off on one a little bit there, but you would have to wait. It's hard to say exactly how long, but a fair amount longer, I would assume, than 2 months before the dreads really start to get tight and shorter on the tips. I hope I've answered some people's questions out there, and it was, you know, useful and helpful to you in your dreadlock journeys, or if you don't have dreadlocks and you're just interested, or you're just watching this video to pass the time. I hope it was, you know, enjoyable and things. And if you would like to see more videos from me, you can click subscribe, and if you liked my question and answers video, you can click the thumbs up and then boop, and I'll be like, yay, someone has liked this video, they must have enjoyed watching it, and then I'll make more of those videos for you. If you have a question that you would like me to answer in this, you know, this question and answer series, you can post it down here. Please write question at the start, and then it will go into my list of questions to answer via video. If you don't put question at the start of your comment, I will just reply to it with, you know, a normal text comment. You can find plenty more things on my channel and on lazydreads.com, and you can find me on Twitter if you want to tweet me something or follow me, and I will follow you back. And that's Twitter. Is it Twitter at lazy_dreads? It's not lazydreads as one, because that is someone who isn't me. It's lazy_dreads, and I think that's everything I have to say for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.